I'm Holly O'Neill, President of Retail Banking for Bank of America, and thanks for joining me for Game Changers. On today's episode and throughout the series, you'll hear from leaders who are changing the game when it comes to building a best-in-class client experience. And you'll hear the stories of our amazing teammates who are going above and beyond to ensure our clients and their financial health are at the heart of everything we do. I could not think of a better guest for our very first episode of Game Changers than Michelle Peluso. Michelle is the Chief Customer Officer at CVS Health and Co-President of CVS Pharmacy. And let me tell you, she's the real deal. She's had an impressive 25-year career leading customer experience for renowned companies like IBM, Citigroup, and Travelocity. She's a wife and a mom of 2 kiddos, a New Yorker, and a fun fact, quite the sneakerhead. She got me to wear my sneakers today. And Michelle, welcome and thanks for joining us today. So lucky and honored to have you as our very first guest.
Well, I'm so excited to be here, Holly. Thanks so much. And thanks for joining us at CVS.
This is great. So, Michelle, you've been in the C-suite across a whole host of different industries. Travel, banking, fashion, big tech, and now healthcare and retail. So what's been the constant for you through all of these experiences?
Well, one thing I absolutely love is being in the center of it when consumer expectations are changing and technology is making more possible. And I had the chance to do that with travel, which was one of the first industries to go digital. And then, of course, fashion and banking, our shared passion. And now, of course, healthcare is transforming. But, you know, there's a different answer to your question that it sort of jumps to my mind, too, because recently our CEO, Karen Lynch, asked us to each write our leadership philosophies. And I got to tell you, it was an amazing exercise, and I probably edited mine like 95 times. But trying to crystallize what have you learned over these different industries and these different experiences. And so that process has reminded me of a few things. That part of what has made me enjoy and I guess maybe succeed across different industries are some common things. One, always living aligned to your North Star. Always, for me, putting the consumer at the center of everything. Always making sure in the conversations we have that, there's shareholders and there's colleagues and there's a lot of different constituents, but consumers at the core. A second one, which I've thought a lot about of late, is being a learn-it-all. And I think Satya Nadella might have said it. I give him credit. But I just love that concept. I love the concept of being a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. And I think, and I'm sure we'll explore this, the world is changing so fast. Our crafts are changing so fast. The idea of, really focusing on learning is such a passion. Third thing I would just point out is I grew up with parents. My dad was an entrepreneur, and I watched him always put his sort of, his team first. And he was so passionate about being a good leader and learning how to be a better leader. And so leading for the betterment of others, and really having energy and passion about the team is critical. Being bold, I've been fortunate to be in very transformative times across industries. And so having the courage to really edit and amplify those big, bold ideas. And then last but not least, probably my favorite, play with joy. That in your career, you've done so many extraordinary things, Holly. And as you know, you hit hard times, whether it's personally hard times, professionally hard times. And so, learning to play with joy, learning to make sure that even in those really hard times, that is front and center for me from a philosophy perspective.
Yeah, that's so important. Mm-hmm. And your North Star is very clear. And I love the client at the center. Mm-hmm. It's something that we talk about a lot as well at Bank of America, and really has been transformative culturally for us over the last decade. So really, really critical, but that's so helpful. Mm-hmm. So I love your mission. Mm-hmm. Healthier happens together.
Yes.
So can you talk about how you're actually putting the consumer at the heart of everything you do at CVS?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that creative platform is a lot of fun. Healthier happens together. And we, as always, do a lot of consumer research. And where is she now? Where is he now? And healthcare and frankly, the world has seemed a bit overwhelming of late. And so this idea that it's those everyday actions we can do together to bring more wellness to our lives, we think is a powerful platform. The consumer at the center, the first thing I would say is if you're not measuring it, you can't change it. And so One of the most important things we do at CVS Health, and we've been doing this really much more extensively, is instrumenting all those moments that matter. We have 21 million people who walk through our stores every week. We serve over 100 million Americans across CVS Health. It is so critical that all those moments that matter to consumers and members, we're instrumenting, we're asking the question, how are we doing?
Yeah.
How can we get better? Now, we're a Net Promoter Score company, so we're passionate about that. But it doesn't stop there. We now have programs to respond immediately when we get bad feedback. So when we see detractor surveys now, hundreds of thousands of times, we're responding a year immediately to the consumer, understood what went wrong, how can we help you? We're amplifying surprise and delight. What I always tell the team is being great for consumers. A lot of us spend most of our time and energy thinking about how do we solve problems. And we do a lot of that as a team. We have all the forums to take the feedback, tens of millions of surveys a year, take that feedback, work on the things that are holding consumers back. But at the same time, we have to spend just as much energy thinking about promoters and how we create promoters. I was with a store region director recently, and he said it was a huge unlock for him. He had spent so much time with his team talking about, okay, we've got to make sure that checkout doesn't take too long. We've got to make sure. And then he said one day it occurred to him to start reading more of the promoter surveys. And that became the understanding of what created a great consumer experience. Because every time he read a promoter survey, he read things like, Sally gave me such a warm greeting when she came in. When I needed help at the shelf, John came over, and it was the human connection. It wasn't all the little things they were trying to fix about self-checkout and optimizing the flow. The difference maker was the humanity. So I think it's really important in our work at CVS Health to think also about those things that are driving exceptional experiences and to amplify those. And for us, it's important, much like banking, this is critical to people's lives. This is not, these are essential to people's lives and to their well-being, our industries. And so making sure that we always have that empathy for what the consumer might be experiencing before she walks into a Bank of America branch, before she shops at CVS Health, that's so important to create that kind of culture.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And there are so many similarities. And I think some of my teammates at Bank of America are listening to this and saying, this is so much of what we talk about in terms of measuring your experience and really understanding where it's good and bad. And, I love the surprise and delight. And it really does come down to the human connection.
Yeah.
And I would say we're seeing the same data in our information coming back from customers. And where they have a great experience, they've had a teammate, somebody in a call center or financial center, help them through a problem or help them buy a home, as an example. So, so much of that is that human connection and making it personal.
Yeah. And what's exciting about that too, Holly, is, it's not technology or humanity.
Yeah.
It's the and that's, I think, what we're spending a lot of time thinking about is how do we introduce new capabilities, new technologies, new ways of doing business, and at the same time, even improve our game on creating those very heartfelt personal touches.
Right.
And that combination is really powerful.
Yeah. So you say technology and humanity. We say high tech and high touch, right? So the people and the technology.
Here,
I know. And so the way the two of them get integrated is really where I think we will change the game.
Right.
And how they work together. So consumers expect this personalized experience. We know that, and we get that from other industries. So they expect information on their time, when they want it, and on their terms. So how is CVS evolving to make that change with the consumer?
There's a lot of ways we could answer that question, but as you talk, one thing that sort of jumps out at me that Bank of America has an advantage on, and I think CVS Health does too, is that truly omni-channel experience. The best of digital and personal, the best of in-store and virtual, the best of care, digital and physical. And I'm actually going to use an Aetna and sort of CVS example on this one. So our country, as you know, is going through a mental health crisis, and it's now the case that about a third of Americans, even slightly more, have a behavioral health problem and challenge they're working through. But that number is misleading in some ways because amongst certain populations, it's much higher. So for instance, amongst 18 to 34, that number is over 50%. And when you break it down further, there are 112 million Americans in this country that don't have a therapist in their community, that don't have everyday access to therapy. So you have this swelling problem and not enough ways to kind of, manage it. But that's an interesting example too, because that's where something like omni-channel health plays a big difference. And one of the things we're seeing is if we can offer somebody a combined virtual, physical, behavioral counseling, we reduce the stigma, we increase the access, and the clinical outcomes are so much better. And, I think, growing up in the digital era, for a while there, we thought about these discrete channels.
Yes.
There's the digital channel, and there's the branch channel, and there's the call center channel. And of course, that's not the way our consumers think. And so to me, the magic and the excitement and the fun I'm having lately is how do you bring those things together to solve unsolvable problems, previously unsolvable problems. And so, I am excited by companies like yours and ours, because there's such a unique opportunity to do that in a differentiated way. We don't have to rebel against digital banking. It's amazing. But at the same time, there's so many places where that expertise, that humanity can be infused by, the talented staff you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was with the team this morning, and we were talking about one of the positives that came out of the pandemic. And that was much more integration of digital and physical, right?
Yeah.
It really accelerated people who were hesitant to use digital to do so.
Right.
So, now we have to capitalize on that and really bring it together to integrate it. So from fashion to e-commerce, entertainment, there are great companies really hitting it out of the park. So what are the brands that you really put out there as just companies that are really crushing it?
Yeah, I mean, lots of companies. I'd be remiss if I didn't start with Nike, of course, though.
Of course.
Such a sneakerhead
Your
that
Nike
I
sneakers.
am. Exactly. By the way, that's a great fashion trend. Like gone are the 3-inch heels in my wardrobe. So I am regretting that at all.
Fully subscribed to that starting today.
Excellent. You're going to love it. Feel free to text me for sneaker advice.
I will.
Fashion sneaker advice. No, but I think, I've had the privilege of being on the Nike board for the past 9 years. And so I've seen that evolution in terms of the digital physical experience. Yeah. And I would just say a few things that I think keeps propelling that brand forward. That is that brand never gets complacent. That team, they think like athletes. They're constantly thinking about how to improve their game. And that's inspiring to me because, it's so easy sometimes you believe your own success. You start to get complacent, you get a little lazy, like we're doing so well, we're with share gains. And that's a company that is always obsessing about the future, always obsessing about what's coming next. And I think it shows in terms of how they show up. Mark Parker once said something to me that stuck with me ever since. And I mentioned a little bit earlier before, but edit to amplify. Can we do a few things extremely well?
Right.
And, I've watched that team do that, especially with some of their brand campaigns and sort of shoe design and innovation. And so I think lots of reasons to love them.
So CVS is one of the biggest retailers in the country.
Yes.
What's one piece of advice for retail businesses as they're really trying to do some of the things we've talked about in terms of engaging the customer?
Yeah, well, I think some of the things we talked about, that consumer is the North Star.
Yes.
The pace of innovation in retail is accelerated, which means the agility we all need to have is just very different than it was 5-7 years ago. So I think we're certainly doing this at CVS Health, but breaking down organizational silos, thinking about new ways to work and new ways to partner becomes so much more critical because it's just not the case that you can do this great 3-year strategic plan and map out your merch strategy and your pricing strategy and your marketing strategy. It's way more dynamic than that. So what I see great retailers doing is, they're operating at the pace of the consumer. But I think it also comes back to, if you really think about the brands you love and some of the brands we just spoke about, there's a passion for those brands. There is a love for those brands because they have introduced, something unique, something human. I'll use Chewy as an example, for all the pet lovers out there. And we certainly are in our household. It's incredible how they, the product recommendations, the humanity. We had a friend who lost a pet and called Chewy to cancel a pretty expensive veterinary food, dog food, and an order that had arrived and the pet died. It was just a horrible situation. And Chewy immediately was like, donate it to a local vet, et cetera. But the next, during that week, the woman my friend got a handwritten note and a small thing of flowers, and just saying, like, we know how important pets are. We love them just as much as you do, with the pet's name in it. And, it's such a small little thing, but it creates love.
Yes.
And I think you can do a lot of things transactionally right. We can make sure our aisles look perfect, and we can make sure things are priced correctly, and we can make sure there's not a long line. But it goes back to what I said before. That'll eliminate detractors. It's not going to create brand love. And so I think the best retailers have personality, and they have courage. They have an edge. They'll take risk.
Yes.
And they know who they are, and they amplify who they are. That, I think, is increasingly important, because there's so much choice. There's so much choice. And so, I think that becomes even more important.
Okay, so last segment here, I want to do a bit of a speed round, if you don't mind. So 1 word, 2 word answers, whatever comes to mind. I thought it would be fun. So best part of your morning routine?
Well, the kids go to school. We're in New York City, and so I have to be careful about saying this, because my husband has banned me from this, but I often take the kids to school on scooters. So the 3 of us get on scooters and kind of like scoot down the New York City sidewalks to school. He's often asleep still, so I can kind of get away with it.
That's very brave. So you must be really coordinated.
Well, that's why he's banned it, actually, because I'm not so coordinated.
Okay.
But it's a lot of fun.
That's great.
Kind of early in the morning, streets of New York City, Soho.
Oh, it does sound fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your favorite Nike shoe?
Favorite Nike shoe? I've so many. I've been into Jordan lately. I think Jordan's on fire. There's just been some great Jordan sneakers. I'm, of course, an Air Force One girl, but actually I'm a runner, and Nike has this new platform called Infinity or Invincible. It started with Infinity, and now I think it's the Invincible 3, which is really designed to make sure that you can run for decades ahead. So really much better on kind of knees and feet and stuff. So I'm super excited about that.
That's a few favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's the most valuable lesson you've learned on the job?
Oh, so many. I shared some of them, but if I had to crystallize, probably staying, being a learn-it-all has been incredibly valuable in my career. And I think when you have that mentality, it eliminates defensiveness, because you can always get better. You can always improve. You're always on a journey of improvement. And so, it takes away that defensiveness. It takes away that, and I think it keeps you young, right? It keeps you kind of curious and young and vibrant.
That's great. And that's lifelong.
Yeah.
No matter where you are working in nonprofits. I
just want my world to keep expanding.
That's right.
I never want to be in a situation where I feel like things are, my world's narrowing. I just think it's such an incredible life we have, the opportunity to live. And so I always want to keep expanding.
Yeah, it really is. I have loved learning about your perspective on clients and how you're creating personalized experiences, and about you personally and what gets you up and excited in the morning. It's been terrific.
Well, I have loved it as well. And I will just say, I'll go back to where I started. Your company plays such a vital role in the lives of so many people. I think banking and healthcare, these are industries that change lives. And so I'm always deeply appreciative of the leadership you all show every day.
Yeah, well, thank you again. And I'm sure our viewers are taking away so many valuable insights from you. So I really appreciate it. And we'll be back in just a minute to hear from teammate Telebah Woods about how she's celebrating Black History Month and uplifting communities of color. So stay tuned. We're back. And February is Black History Month, and we're spending it celebrating the richness and diversity of our Black teammates, clients, and communities. Our next guest, Telebah Woods, is doing amazing work to advance inclusion at the bank. And since joining us as an operations manager and underwriter 17 years ago, Telebah's career has skyrocketed. She's now the National Strategic Relationships Manager for Neighborhood Lending, based in LA. She works to provide clients in multicultural communities with the tools and financial education they need to realize the dream of homeownership. And outside of work, Telebah is a mom of 3 and serves as the board chair of EXP Future, a nonprofit that provides underserved students with career opportunities. and she's a proud champion for better money habits. Telebah, I know you're a very busy woman, so thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Holly, for the opportunity to be here.
Nice to have you in Boston. So tell me about your journey to financial services and your career at Bank of America.
Absolutely. So it started off with a college scholarship. I was offered a college scholarship and a role or a position as a bank teller. As a young mother, that was like a great opportunity for me. I'm like, yes, a job, a scholarship, an opportunity to kind of lean in and better myself. And that was the first introduction into financial services. I will say, being with clients and being in the financial center and working with the community in that way really kind of opened up all of the thirst for me as far as financial services. I can share that having a young son, knowing that I needed to build this momentum for a career, I just kind of kept going, thinking about what's next for me. How can I use this to amplify my life in financial services? And so from there, I graduated college and I moved here to California. And I started my career as an underwriter in home loans. And my entire career here at Bank of America has been in home loans. But more importantly, starting as an underwriter let me know all of the kind of ins and outs and what it took to be a homeowner. At the time, I was not. And so from there, had a role in operations. And that let me see a little bit behind the scenes and how we all work together to collaborate to make this happen. And then from there, I'm now in neighborhood and community lending, which I love the work that I do today, connecting back with the clients and the community to share, more importantly, the financial literacy kind of foundation and how you own a home, but also just kind of bridging that gap.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty incredible that you've had a variety of roles, and your role now is really amazing. You work with our multicultural partners, and you really help our clients realize the dream of home ownership. And I've heard you talk about the importance of building generational wealth, especially in the Black community. So can you talk about what that means to you?
Absolutely. I think home ownership serves as the foundation for generational wealth. You think about all of the opportunities that owning a home can afford you. So it starts, though, with financial literacy. We want to make sure that people have a real understanding of what home ownership is and how they can use that particular platform to do other things. I'll share with you my mother back in the 80s, moving from Boston to California. Homes were not as expensive as they are today, but relatively speaking, it was a big purchase for her as a single mother with 3 children, for myself and my siblings. But she wanted to make sure that we had a place that we can call our own to grow and develop and have friends over and things like that. And so with that particular home, it's still in our family today. It has gone on to my sister, who raised her family there for over 20 years. And now both of my adult sons live there. And it's just been a great opportunity for our family to continue to build generational wealth.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is so important. And this is one of the really big opportunities for us in the consumer business, is that journey to home ownership is such an important step for somebody at any level of wealth. So that story is really incredible. And I know I'm really proud of how you represent the enterprise for Black History Month. So it's important to hear your voice and your story. Tell me what Black History Month means to you and how you're celebrating.
Absolutely. Well, I'll say Black History Month is not enough days for me. I love to think about Black History Month kind of like 365. Every day exploring and identifying all of the rich history that Black African American people have contributed. And so for me, though, Black History Month is just a time to really like lean into it, amplify, celebrate, have a bunch of different events. Our Black Professional Group Employee Network, they're doing events internally with teammates and associates. They're doing events externally focused on mental health and wellness, and just again giving opportunities to our community to talk about all the wonderful work. There are volunteer opportunities available for us to kind of give back in that space. And so I think Black History Month is just a good time to, as I look at it, I go commemorate, celebrate, and elevate. Think about the future contributions that we can have for Black History Month.
Right. Yeah. It's always a good opportunity to check back in and reset and think about what you need to do differently and how you can continue to drive the momentum.
Yes.
So here's a tough question. Who is your hero in the Black community, and what lessons have you learned from them?
Wow. So I'll initially start with my parents. They served as the first heroes to me. They did a lot of heroic work for my sister, brother, and myself. But when I think about today, there's some amazing things being done right here in this organization. I look at AJ Barkley, who is the leader in my segment of business, and all of the amazing work that she is doing. I think about Steve Bolin and the work that he's done, Keith Cockrell. And then when I think externally, my sister, she's a nurse, and the tireless work and the efforts that she does just for the greater good of others and the community, she's my hero. So, you know, when I think about the heroes of today, those are the people that I think of first.
Yeah, so really great people and good roles. You know, Steve, AJ, Keith, I know them all, and you know, they're really incredible, and I would put them on my heroes list as well. And I, you know, personally have learned a lot from all three of them. So Telebah, it's been great to have you as a guest. Thank you for coming to Game Changers, and thanks for all you're doing for the company and for our communities.